morning, everyone. This is Kerry Brown, Hangout with Coach Kerry. I bet you're an entrepreneur and you're wondering, well, I've got all these things that I need to be focusing on. What's the most important thing I need to be focusing on? Well, today we're going to talk about your number one priority in business. So likely you're either tuning in on YouTube or you're watching this live on my website. So I welcome you today, and I have two guests that are part of my panel today that they're going to ask me some questions around this number one priority, and so I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, and then we're going to get into the meat of today's episode. So Kathy, I'll have you introduce yourself first.
Great. Good morning, Kerry, and hello, everybody. My name's Kathy Scott, and I have a great little business called Niche Travel, and what I specialize in is women's tours, extraordinary women's tours, small group boutique tours all over the world, and we have a lot of fun, so you'll have to come out and join us. You can find me at nichetravel.ca.
Great. Thanks, Kat. And Grace, tell us about you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Grace Gary, and my business is Graceful Solutions. I'm a counsellor, and what I do is I help people who run into roadblocks in their life to get past them so they can meet their goals. I have a special interest in emotional eating and weight loss, and I have a group coming up this week called Control Your Mind, Control Your Weight. You can find me on gracefulsolutions.ca.
Great. Excellent. Thanks, Grace. Okay, so again, back to our topic for today. What's the number one priority in business? Because I think from time to time we all question, are we working on the right things? What is our priority? What do we need to do to actually create success? And today, that's our topic today. So Kathy, why don't you ask me my first challenging question?
Well, it's pretty simple, Kerry. It is, what is the number one priority in business?
Well, the number one priority may actually be self-evident when I tell you what it is. But again, it doesn't seem to be intuitively self-evident. And I have this formula that if you download my ebook called How to Get Out of Overwhelm and Accelerate Your Results Now, that book is on my website, HangOutWithCoachKerry.com, spelled Kerry.com. It's in there, but I'm going to share it with you today just to give you a sneak preview of it. And here's the formula. It's plan plus systems plus priorities equals results. And results is, in most cases, it's either more clients or better bottom line or better cash flow, whatever those results happen to be for you. So the number one priority, and it starts in that order of the formula, which is plan. We have to plan. And it's an absolute, and it's something that, those of you who are listening right now are probably going, okay, I understand. Yeah, I understand why planning is important. But how boring. Who wants to actually plan? But it's really, really important that we do this piece. So, Kathy, there's your answer to the question.
Great. So that's great, Kerry, but why? Why is planning so important?
Well, it really drives everything that we do. I meet so many female entrepreneurs that love what they do, or they have an idea and they're encouraged by their friends and family, and off they go, and they haven't done any planning. And in fact, I believe it was last week's episode, we talked about the distinction between a business plan and a strategic plan. So go to episode 41, today is episode 42, and have a listen to that if that's important to you. But I'll just draw the quick distinction for you. A business plan is in the early days. You're a startup, you're starting up your business, and this is where you're going to look at your assumptions and test your assumptions. So it's a really key piece because a lot you don't know yet. You don't know where you're going to get your customers from. You think you know. You don't know if what you're offering to the marketplace really has the kind of traction that you want. And it's where you're going to do as much of your testing of your assumptions as you can do. Strategic planning, well, that's after you've already got some assumptions there, and so everything you're going to do, you're going to plan there afterwards around the strategic plan. Yesterday, I have to share with you, I was at an event, and I met a woman, and she was so excited because her daughter was going to be opening up a unique boutique. And, she was saying, well, I said, well, what kind of store is it? And she told me what it was, and she said, well, and these are some of the things that we're hoping are going to happen. And I thought, oh, no, I hope that, I didn't ask her, has she done any other planning? But based on the way the mother was talking, it didn't sound like she had actually done a business plan. And so, so many women start a business because they're passionate about something, because they love what they do, and they've been encouraged by friends and family. But passion does not a business make. Pretty soon you will get you will actually lose your passion and become very disillusioned if you're not getting the results that you want. So that's where planning is really, really key. And to constantly be checking back on your planning to make sure that the assumptions or what you said you're going to do and the results you're getting are happening, so that you can do some course correction, that you can always set it. Plus, you're using the law of attraction at its best. When you plan, you're sort of saying out there, this is what I plan to do. This is my expectation. And what will happen is your reticular activator in the back of your brain, that thing that notices things, will see opportunities, that you will look at other things. Planning allows you to get out of your own head and your own ideas and look at things from a different perspective. So there's so many reasons why it's really important. You can hear the passion in my voice as to why I think this is important. And it doesn't have to be a long, detailed thing. It really is commensurate to the kind of business that you have and how complex your business is. So it doesn't, again, it can be an easy thing to create, and I'm going to really encourage you to do that. So, Kathy, I think I answered your questions. How about you, Grace? What's your question for me around this whole topic of planning?
Well, my question is, Kerry, when should we plan? I mean, I know we should say plan once a year when it's January, but how often should we plan?
That's a great question. And for those of you who are watching this live, we're still in the month of January, and it's still time you can be planning for the year ahead. In fact, what I would say is there's never a bad time to plan. Because at the beginning of a year, you're going to do either the beginning of the year or the end of a year moving forward. I'm going to encourage you to do a strategic plan for your entire year. That's a really key piece. So you have a framework of what's going to move forward, because part of that strategic plan is taking stock of where you've been, so that you can take the actions to close that gap. So that's when that's when it's really important to do a strategic plan, is at the beginning or end of a year, so you've got the year in advance. But any time is a good time to plan. If you are doing a new campaign, if you've got a product launch, if you've got a program that you want to launch, that's when you want to sit down and do the planning, so that you're not you don't find yourself kind of scrambling to figure out what you need to do to get your butts in seats, or to Kathy, for you, it would be to sell a tour. And everyone knows their timeline for that. So again, planning for a particular product launch may be more complex. It could be a year and a half, or it could be something that you do 3 months in advance. So you are now going to know your business. But every single thing, I would also say every quarter, it's a really good time, if you like to break your business into the natural quarters that happen in a year, is to, at the end of one quarter, plan your next quarter. And you can look at where you are in this quarter and plan that out. And again, you're going to look at everything from, what am I doing well? What am I not doing well? Where is there a lack of initiatives? What are some of the things that I need to be doing? Am I confused about anything? Do I need to hire resources? So what you're going to do is really look at the gap between where you want to be and where you are right now. So those measurements in the year are often really good times to be able to do some planning. I would say for anyone who's starting a new networking organization, for an example, or going to join one, is to stop and plan that. So plan your activity, plan how often you're going to attend, plan what you hope to get out of it, plan your strategy to connect with people that are in it. So you can hear, I think in this episode, if we were to count it, I probably said the word plan at least 50 times. So you can see why I think it's really important, because here's been my personal experience, is I create my plan, and whether that's a mind map, which we have an episode on mind mapping, whether it's a document piece of paper, whether it's a calendar that you've planned out on your wall, whatever format that you've used, it will organically start to grow because you've set the intention and your mind is in that way. Do I recommend you check back? Absolutely. Do you need to check every single day? Well, depending on how complex the campaign is and what you've invested in it. If you've invested thousands of dollars in something, then absolutely you're going to be checking regularly to see what kind of results you've got. If it's something that's more about based on your results, well, that's still a resource. As you know, I'm a real stickler for your resources also costing you. So sometimes we easily say, oh, well, it's only my time. Well, only your time. Every moment that you're working on one thing is when you're not working on something else. Every moment you're working on something is when you're not working on something else. So you need to be evaluating that. So plan, absolutely, beginning, end of year, plan every quarter, plan for every campaign, plan for every single thing that you're doing. What's your plan? I'd even say that when you're going on a vacation or a trip with a family or even a weekend away, what's your plan, intention for the weekend? Is it one that you want to relax? Is it one where you want to be able to do some writing? Is it one where you want to have some adventure? Be really clear on that. And it's really clear, of course, you share that with your family that's going with you. And if you have a team in your business, so it may be you may have some contractors that you're outsourcing, it's really important that you share with them your plan, because you're relying on them for some resources or some component of what's moving forward. And they are, and you have, you've missed making them aware of those deadlines, then it's going to create frustration and it's going to pull you back in terms of your timeline as well. So Grace, did that answer your question about when to plan?
Yes, I really like the idea of taking charge and thinking ahead to set your intention or attention for something. I was also interested in when do you plan in terms of on a weekly basis, because you have said to me, take stock at the end of the week and decide at the beginning of the week what you're going to do. So maybe a reminder about that would be helpful too on the small time frame, short time frame, I mean.
Yeah, great. So that's really the micro planning versus the macro planning. So I always recommend on a Sunday night you kind of take a stock of where your week is going to go. And if Sunday nights, if you have this sort of commitment, Sundays you don't work, well then Monday morning, the very first thing you do is you plan your week and you plan your day. And at the end of every day, you take stock of what you did, what you said you were going to do, and then that will move forward into what your plan is for the next day, so that you know what your priorities are. So you know what your priorities for the next day are that night before, and that morning you reaffirm what your priorities are, because some things might have shifted, but it also sets your intention for the day. And you do that, you kind of rinse and repeat that on a daily basis. Then every Friday, I highly recommend looking at your week in reverse and really asking yourself, so we're going to go a little bit bigger, not quite so micro, and you're going to look at yourself and say, okay, did I accomplish what I wanted to accomplish? What was the quality of the choices I made? Were they in alignment with what I said my goals were? And then that helps you sort of think about future, your next week, and you can start doing some of that planning for that next week. Then the end of every month, it's always a really good time, the last Friday of the month, I have it in my calendar to do my monthly review. And it's just to kind of step back for a moment. So busy in the work that we're doing that we need to step back and have a little bit bigger view. Imagine you're a plane taking off the runway. Well, when you're on the runway, you're right on it, so that's your daily planning. Then you're starting to move a little bit off, then that's your weekly planning and review. And then you're at your monthly, and then of course that's going to be some review. And then quarterly, and then of course annually as well. And then, as I mentioned, every single campaign that you do, every single activity, you want to be planning out what you want results from that. Thanks, Grace, for that reminder. That was really good, and I think that would be very helpful for people, especially if they've not heard me say that on my other episodes as well, so thank you. So, Kathy, what we've talked about today, did that raise any questions for you about planning that you might have, or anything else that kind of came out of what we talked about today?
Well, I don't really think I've got any further questions, Kerry. You're very concise in what you say. What I would say that I got out of it for myself is I can tend to leave the planning and think, oh, I'll do it later. And I really like the putting it in my calendar, because although I do put in my Fridays, I do have that, so I have my reflective Fridays. I can honestly say for the rest of it, I don't have it in my calendar, so I'm going to do that. And I think that'll be very helpful moving forward.
Great. Yes. We have to, we move forward on an activity, and we have to have a mechanism to test our assumptions. So even if you have planned what you're going to do, there has to be a way to actually look at it and test the assumptions to see, are we getting the results that we want? Do we need to shift our activity? That's the piece that I call the evaluate and adjust piece, that we always have to be evaluating our activities and making adjustments, because we'll never know what it will take to accomplish something until it's done. I'm going to repeat that again. So the only time we will ever know all the steps, all the activities, all the action steps that need to be done in order to accomplish something is when it's actually done. So you can know some of the first action steps to take, and you've got some assumptions of what you want to take. So what you have to be doing is reviewing that plan over and over and over again. Did that action step move me forward? Did that action step, here I am at this stage in it. These are the benchmarks I set. Have I achieved that so far? So constantly reviewing your plan is another really, really important piece. So thanks for that observation, Kathy. I think that was very insightful. And Grace, how about for you?
I like the reminder, I don't think you said it exactly, but it reminded me of something you've said, to evaluate at night and make a plan for the following day. I find if I don't do that the following day I start cold. I'm like a car whose engine is cold. But if I have a plan from the night before, I know where I should be starting, and I can sort of start more quickly into my day.
Great. And
so
I think
that lots of things.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Grace. And I just want to further on that whole idea of planning the night before. Picking your top 3 priorities for the next day. Those are your drop dead ones you have to get done. One of the pieces that can happen is if we have this long list of things that need to get done, or that to-do list, what happens is you'll lay awake at night and they'll be spinning around in your head. So first of all, you've got to have a place to capture all those things, and those things need to be part of a plan for how you're going to deal with them, how they all fit together, those pieces. But also, if you know what your top 3 priorities are, and you're really clear your first steps of what you need to do in those, I'm going to guarantee that you're going to have a much better sleep that night, because you're going to wake up in the morning, and you're going to wake up energized and excited about actually those activities that you've got in place, versus, okay, what am I going to do? Because every single productivity expert out there says the last thing we need to be doing in the morning is checking our emails first thing in the morning. And that has a tendency to be what we do when we actually don't have a plan. And then what we know is 1, 2, 3 hours can just be absorbed into going down rabbit holes. And then those important, essential things, the things that you may have planned for, maybe the launch, Grace, for you, for your, for a weight loss program, for an example. Or Kathy, for you, it can be a new tour that you want to market out there in the marketplace. But if we take that time, or we actually don't really take it, we just get absorbed into doing that, going down those rabbit holes, you won't feel anywhere near as productive, and those things that are part of your plan get bumped and bumped and bumped and bumped all the time. So that's why just continually kind of resetting what do I need to be doing and how does this fit into my overall plan is a really, really key piece. So thank you both today for great observations and some great questions around this whole notion of planning, and why I've said, again, remember that formula. It's planning, you've got that plan, then you've got your systems that you have to put in place, and we've devoted a number of episodes to systems, then one on priorities, and we actually have that as well. So you have to determine priorities at any given time, because often you'll have conflicting priorities, and that formula has to be in place that will equal results. Just planning without some systems and priorities doesn't happen. Systems without planning and priorities doesn't happen. And just prioritization, well, how can you prioritize if you don't actually have a plan? Well, it's impossible to do that, because how do you know then what's an important priority? You're dealing then with the tyranny of the urgent, just with what's coming at you face on versus what you've actually strategically planned out. So again, your number one priority, and I think if you've listened to a few episodes, and if you've heard me on anything else, is that creating predictable income is your number one priority in terms of generating cash flow for your business. And the only way you can create predictable income is by planning. Because how can it be predictable if you don't have a plan? It's happenstance, it's by the seat of your pants, so to speak. So planning is your priority. Make that your mantra for this year, and I really encourage all of you to go out and do some planning. So, Kathy and Grace, any last final comments before I end this episode today?
Well, I would say for me, Kerry, what a great way to start a Monday. Thank you. And it gets me thinking about my week, and I'm definitely going to spend some time this morning planning.
Great. Excellent. Thanks. Grace, any final things for you?
Same for me. I think the next thing I'm going to do is plan my day and plan my week.
Good. Excellent. So one of the things that can help you, for those of you who are either listening to this as a podcast at YouTube, watching through YouTube, or through my website, HangOutWithCoachKerry.com, is you can actually tune in live Monday mornings, 9 a.m. And even if Monday mornings, 9 a.m., you have a commitment, then listen to it later in the day. Make sure that you create that habit for you, because that's also part of a plan, is making sure that you keep those things in place. So again, come check out my website so you can check out my book, How to Get Out of Overwhelm and Accelerate Your Results, at HangOutWithCoachKerry.com. And you can find me on Facebook at Kerry Brown Coach. You can find me on Google Plus at Hangout with Coach Kerry, and join my small business community there, Kerry Brown's Passport to Growth Academy. So until next week, have a productive week and enjoy your planning. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye now.
Bye.